What's up, guys? Mike the Cop. And what does this currently wrinkly piece of fabric mean to me? Is it a desecration of the U.S. flag? Is it racist? When people see it, is it triggering to them, especially if you're black or brown people? Let's talk about that.
I got you. Yeah, I will defend my brothers. I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite. Bring it on. It's time to fight.
Hey guys, I apologize for the low-tech environment. However, I did record this video yesterday at my new office with the pallet wood version of this decoration, this symbol, this flag at my office. However, on the Zoom recorder that I use for audio, unfortunately, the SD card got full and I didn't know it, so most of the audio was non-existent on the SD card. So the whole project sort of had to be put on hold to do it here this morning when I had time at my house. Now, getting on with the topic itself. What does this flag behind me mean to me? I don't pretend to speak for all cops. I don't make that claim, never have, and I don't ever plan on making that claim. However, I do believe that what I'm about to tell you as far as how I see it is how many would see it. It is a merging of obviously a nod to the actual American flag and the thin blue line put together. It is for those that use this for decoration, a way to have a sense of pride or to point to that sense of pride in both our country. If you didn't know that law enforcement officers are sworn to uphold the Constitution. So as law enforcement officers, we're very proud of the Constitution. We're very proud of this country. And there's that aspect. And then there's a pride in the actual job of law enforcement. Obviously, anybody can be proud and should be proud to be from this country. But not everyone does the job of law enforcement. And back in the 1920s, this thin blue line concept came around. There's a couple different takes on it. One is that, like, on either side, of that line, one is order, one is chaos. One are innocent people, the other are those who would seek to do them harm. And the thin blue line stands between those things. I don't think that should be seen as in an arrogant way, but in a prideful way in terms of being satisfied and proud of the work that we do in that position. I think that's completely acceptable. So you put those two things together. Now, this is more like a trend, if you will. This didn't exist, in the 1970s or 80s or even the 90s that I remember. But as fast as it came in as one of those symbols, it could also leave. So the first thing to understand in answering those questions after what does it mean to me is this a desecration? Okay, the answer is no, it is not a desecration for a couple of reasons. One, this isn't a flag. I mean, I know, like, it's on fabric and it could be put on some type of pole. Oh, there's so many jokes there. It doesn't mean that it's an official flag. There's no Pledge of Allegiance. There's no proper protocol around it. There's no particular agency. There's no particular organization that has said and designed and came up and brought this out and said, this is our flag. So in the sense of being any type of official flag for anybody, it's not a thing. This is just symbolic and something that law enforcement has gravitated to in recent years as a way to represent that pride in the job, like I said. Also, it is not a desecration of the United States flag. A lot of people toss out to me as they've seen this in some form behind me in a lot of my videos that I should know better because this is against the law. And they point to Title 18 of the U.S. Code that contains the flag code and tell me this is clearly a violation of law, and the fact that I am flying in the face of this law shows that I don't know what I'm doing as a police officer. Unfortunately, their lack of education shows through when that happens because of the fact that the idea of desecrating the flag as it pertains to the flag code has long been, since 1989 or 90, I'm not 100% sure which year the Supreme Court official decision was out, but since then it's been declared unconstitutional to enforce any part of the desecration of the flag in the flag code. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that you should burn the American flag or ignore the traditions and respect around the actual United States flag. But if we were going to go the strict letter of the law of desecration, we're talking about no flag pins, nothing on a hat, a marching band that forms itself by color in the shape of the flag would then be a desecration. This would be a desecration where I say just stand for it and it's kind of ghosted out. In fact, the U.S. military has patches that are ghosted or colored to blend with uniforms that would technically, by flag code, be a desecration. But to apply it in any of those ways is not to apply common sense. It's literally to be contrary to what the law is, and it's really, it's just nonsensical. If you need more clarification on that, feel free to drop those questions in the comments, and somebody, I'm sure, that understands this will answer your question if it can't be me. Moving on, making headlines about this flag behind me being racist is a story out of UC Davis from this past weekend. Not the university proper, but a group on campus focused on ethnic and cultural affairs. They came out with a statement of leveraging the death of Officer Natalie Corona out of Davis PD, where there is a photo of her sort of in remembrance of her, honoring her memory, where she is in a dress and she is holding a flag much like this one behind her. And they are leveraging that photo in honor of her memory to try to push an agenda or the nonsense idea that this is somehow inherently racist. They call it, in their released statement, the Blue Lives Matter flag. I'm not sure that I've never called it the Blue Lives Matter flag. I do believe Blue Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter and Brown Lives Matter and any other color that you want to put in front of it matter. Their statement included things like this, and I quote, "The flag is blatantly anti-black and disrespectful," and that students have been, quote, "triggered by this event." And by this event, they mean a picture memorializing a slain officer in the line of duty. Her picture that had this in it, they have been triggered. Oh, I'm sorry. What a terrible week. There wasn't enough money on your food card, and you got triggered by a photo on the internet. Anyway, I had the honor and opportunity to sit down with Graham Allen on his show, Rant Nation, and we discussed this particular issue about the flag, so listen in.
In 2016, Natalie Corona took these pictures and posted later on her Facebook that this was meant as a sign of respect for our law enforcement officers. However, the UC Davis Ethnic and Cultural Affairs Commission has since taken issue with this photo, hence why we're having this segment. To talk further about this, the only way I know to do it is to have someone who is a cop actually come and talk to us about it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back my good friend, Mike the Cop. Mike, what's going on, man?
What's up, Graham? How are you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. So I want to jump right in this with you. We just, caught everybody up to speed. So UC Davis Ethnic and Cultural Affairs Commission has gone on to say that this picture of Officer Corona that's going around Facebook, basically calling it the flag is blatantly anti-black and disrespectful. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, where do you start? It's kind of like, how do you reason with someone that's staring at a wall and says that, it's a cloudy day? I don't understand, like, how it makes life real difficult. It's like, hey, I'm offended by all fruit because someone slipped on a banana peel. Like, this is, it's becoming increasingly difficult to have what I would say is intelligent dialogue with people who disagree with you when those that are disagreeing with you aren't saying rational things.
Well, yeah, they go further on to say, and I really am excited to hear what you have to say about this, flashing lights, sirens, and increased police presence can be triggering to many black and brown people.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out if the black and brown people that wear the uniform or wear the badge somehow don't magically
those don't exist,
qualify?
Mike. Did you not know that? Those aren't real. Like that's a mythical unicorn creature. There's no black police officers.
Yeah, so they possibly can't be. Their opinion can't be considered any sort of valid opinion in this conversation, I'm sure.
Yeah. So from your personal perspective, you're an active duty. How do you guys say it? Is it full-time police officer, active duty police officer?
Active duty works, or an active sworn police officer. I guess that makes sense.
All right. Well, you're a former active duty police officer yourself, and I'm sure that you knew many black police officers or brown police officers, as they would put it.
Many of whom are my bosses. So I guess I should be triggered. I should be I should be triggered as a white man that a black police officer was ever my boss. I mean,
Right.
if we take that kind of logic and then like turn it upside down, it literally becomes nonsensical.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm sure that this conversation came up at some point in time between, white police officers, black police officers, brown police officers. It should just be police officer, but unfortunately, you've got groups like UC Davis that are turning it into a race thing. I'm sure this conversation came up, and so just without giving names away or anything like that, what is the overall tone within the police departments when you hear and see things like this?
I think it's kind of like at this point, it's like a toss your hands up in the air and just be like, well, what can we do other than just continue to let our actions speak louder than our words? It's not a lot of police officers are afforded the opportunity to actually speak against this kind of thing in a public discourse in having this kind of conversation. So that's where at least I'm blessed that I have an outlet and a means to be able to communicate some of these things. And I feel a little bit of a responsibility to do that. But, behind the scenes, the reality is that while this small group of students is trying to be a squeaky wheel in a literally an illogical assertion, police officers, men, women, black, white, brown, reddish, yellow, the full spectrum is out there of police officers that are out there doing their job and just they're clocking in and out, so to speak, and they're getting in their patrol car and they're suited up and they're ready to go out and serve their communities, and they're continuing to do that in what the media will consider unremarkable ways, 99.9% of the time, in ways that this group from UC Davis will never praise because they're too busy trying to play a professional, in our culture, a professional victim.
Right.
It's fashionable to be offended. It's fashionable to be an ideologue. It's fashionable to be a victim. And rather than living life on your own merits and considering us all equal players in the field of humanity, they want to minimize and push people to the edge that are doing their jobs in unremarkable ways, completely irrespective of race or any other factor.
Right, right. And caveating onto that, Mike, before we got to go on this, is the humanity of it, right? So, obviously this is a very tragic thing. Officer Corona is deceased. She is no longer living. She is no longer with us. But the humanity out of this doesn't seem to be there. If you have a problem with the thin blue line flag, okay, it's the same people that have a problem with the Confederate flag or the Mississippi flag. Hey, if you got a problem with it, take it up with the flag-making people, or whoever it is that created the flag in the first place. But don't attack a young woman, because she was 22 years old. Don't attack a young woman's death and use it as your, disrespectful agenda to push your own narrative.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that sometimes the timing of these things. If you feel like you have a battle to be fought on those things, why are you trying to leverage tragedy in order to do that?
Yeah.
That it is obviously offensive, especially because objectively you have to look at, did she have coworkers that were non-white?
Right.
And if so, if they weren't finding her to be an offense, in fact, they were finding her to be someone that they desire to work alongside. If that's the case, why doesn't the fact that they weren't triggered matter as much as the people that you're saying are potentially victimized because of a picture?
Well, I would say the people that they're saying are potentially victimized, she would technically fall into that category. But, that's neither here nor there. Mike, thanks so much for coming on, man. Real quick, for everybody in the audience, where can they find what you're doing?
MikeTheCop.tv. If you just go to my website, pretty much that'll be a hub, and you can click out to anywhere else on social media and find me.
All right, man. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
All right, guys. Hopefully that is a good synopsis of where I stand on this symbol behind me, and this will be something that I can point to in the future for people as a point of reference. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for supporting me, for supporting the channel. Please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell and tell friends about the content so hopefully we can keep this going. Until next time, good day.